Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. This is the BookTube at the Gym tag, originated by Brian at Bookish. You must pause, go and watch his original video before you watch mine, and then you can laugh at how decidedly on butch my version will be. The only thing, I used to be butch back when I was, young. So I'm going to insert some video footage of me at the gym in my buffer butcher days.
Alright. Struggling with that, huh?
Top that?
I can top it alright.
Otherwise, I just want to get started. This is a great tag. Thanks, Brian. Jeepers. Number 1, bench press, which is giving me a chance to show off. Which book are you proud of having read? It sounds like I'm only supposed to choose one, but I'm going to choose a few. I talked about it in my last Friday reads. I've knocked off The Tale of Genji during a 6-week buddy read with Britta Bowler. Didn't like it all that much, but parts of it I really liked. It was a slog, and I'm not one to finish a work of great literature just because it's a work of great literature. I usually bail if I'm not absolutely loving it, but I did power through this one, and I guess I'm proud. I have about 100 Japanese students and several dozen Japanese friends here in Tokyo, and none of them has ever read anything other than the 20-page excerpt they had to study for high school. So look at me go. And, I can work out because it's so bloody heavy. I am also proud that one of the longest books that I studied in university was the George Eliot novel, Daniel Deronda. I don't remember as very much about it, other than that part of it resonated with me personally, because at that time I was kind of coming to terms with being an adoptee as a young, early 20-something fellow person, and the main character discovers that his biological family, he had Jewish heritage, which he didn't know. That's my memory. There was something like that happened in the story. It's a long time ago since I read it, and it did resonate with me. I need to reread it, maybe. And one book that's totally on topic for the BookTube at the Gym tag is when I was about 14, I bought and read from cover to cover the book Working Out by Charles Hicks. Here's the cover. The inside pages were informatively photographed, much like the cover photograph, and I read it from cover to cover to get the physique that I still have today. Don't you believe that I read it from cover to cover? I certainly worked it out. But anyway, I'm very proud.
Focus on the lower abs, so you don't need to come up as high.
Okay.
All right.
Can I take my shirt off? I'm getting really hot.
Yeah, it's pretty bright out.
Okay.
Okay.
6, 7, 8.
Number 2, leg day. Lots of people like to skip leg day. What book, genre, author have you skipped because you don't think you can handle it? Or what one do you wish you had skipped? So this one is easy for me because I am a literary snob and I am not interested in genre fiction of any kind. There are some silly people that think literary fiction is a genre, but they're just full of you-know-what. I'm just deeply uninterested in... I hate mystery, the mystery genre, horror, romance, YA. Middle grade novels sometimes resonate with my middle grade brain, but children's literature I hate. So yeah, I hate everything really except literary fiction. Don't like essays, don't like memoir, and there are always one or two exceptions for some of these genres. For some of them, I can think of one thriller I read last year that surprised me by how much I liked it. I think one of the most famous John Green novel that was made into the movie about the 2 kids dying of cancer. That was so beautiful. But, in the main, I'm a literary snob, so I skip anything like that as a general rule. Leave that. Number 3, crunches. We all know crunches are good for us. What's a book you read because you needed to gain a better understanding of literature, your work, history, etc.? I'm going to briefly mention 3 that helped me read literature more deeply. As a recovering grad student in English literature, you'll notice that none of these are particularly academic. One I read just before I really went into English literature hardcore as a university student, which I absolutely loved, and then everything I had to study at university sucked in comparison. I should have got out early, was a wonderful survey of women's autobiographical writing. It's called Writing a Woman's Life by Carolyn Hilbrun, published, I'm not sure, in the 80s. And it made me want to do similar studies, and I did do some of that academic research on gay male life writing, but I just thought it was the most interesting work of literary criticism I've ever read. The Book of Forgotten Authors by Christopher Fowler, it didn't give me a better understanding of literature other than that there are a lot of great writers who have just disappeared off the radar for no discernible reason that makes sense to me as a reader, that I discovered through the bite-sized essays of about 100 different writers, Christopher Fowler included in that book, and I have gone on to read a handful or 2 of them in the last year or so and really enjoyed most of them. So that was a book about literature that opened up all kinds of reading for me. And this little book, there is a series, which many of you may have seen, from Oxford University Press, the Very Short Introduction series, and this is the one on African history by John Parker and Richard Rathbone. I have to say this series is really bad. Most of the books that I've read or tried to read from the series are so poorly written and put together that they just read like the professor walked over to his secretary's desk with a folder of his yellowed lecture notes from the last 15 years, accidentally dropped the folder on the floor, and the secretary picked it up and got the order all mixed up, and then she typed it up with a few really terrible black and white illustrations thrown in, and that was the book. This was the exception. This one was great, and I learned a lot about African history from this book that has deepened my reading of African literature. So that one. Number 4, The Treadmill. It's all about endurance. What's a difficult or long book that you powered through? So I've already talked about Tale of Genji and Daniel Deronda. So a difficult book that I got through, and I don't really think it was worth the effort, was William Burroughs' Naked Lunch, which I read 20 years ago, maybe. I don't remember a blessed thing about it. I'm sure I didn't remember a damn thing about it the minute that I put it down. It was just stupid. But I did finish. Back in the days when I bought into this ridiculous idea that you had to finish what you start. Number 5, Lat Rows. Lat Rows.
Neutral spine, and then what you're going to do is you're going to make sure your shoulders are down and your chest is out, and you're maintaining an arch in your back, okay? And by doing this, it's going to allow you to keep your shoulder blades pinched throughout the whole exercise. And what you want to do is pull your hands to your torso. Now once there, squeeze everything nice and tight, and then keep everything nice and tight and squeeze in your back as you come forward. And you're going to come out to a 90-degree angle, okay? You're not going to come to a full extension. Pull back and breathe out. Come forward to 90 degrees. Back and breathe out.
I think it's a typo. It should be Lad Rows. That brings back me memories of the gym in the 1990s. Rows and rows of lads. Okay, moving on. Lat Rows. This is all about feeling good about yourself. What's a book, an author, or a genre that you read because it makes you feel good or brings you joy? So, my guilty pleasure, and I know some people poo-poo the idea of a guilty pleasure, but I don't. I think it, even if I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek, guilty pleasure makes sense to me. This is not something that I am embarrassed about, but it's kind of just a little pocket of my or my curiosity about the world that I'm sure a lot of my subscribers roll their eyes when I go on about it, but it is has been a part of my reading personality since I was a wee lad. Wee lad, there's that word again. And that is books about the British royal family. So I have been reading them about the British royals, particularly from Queen Victoria to the present. I read a 900-page biography of Queen Victoria when I was about 11. The one by Elizabeth Longford that Steve Donahue talked about in his shelf tour of his royal biographies the other day. I've just got a handful here. I'll just quickly show them. This was probably one of my top reads of the year so far. And this is one Steve Donahue hasn't read yet. The Quest for Queen Mary by James Pope Hennessy. Absolutely love this. Can't stop thinking about it. Might reread it before the end of the year. It's one that Steve likes a little better than I ended up liking it. Ma'am Darling, 99 Glimpses of Princess Margaret by Craig Brown. It's not aging well in my memory. I may have to reread it and bring it down to like a 2-star because of some major flaws and, I would say now, misogyny. But it wasn't boring. This is one I haven't read, and it's nothing special. Look, there's some price tags that I'm sure I'll never get off. They look like they've been there for 20 years. This is The Tongs and the Bones, the memoirs of Lord Harewood. Lord Harewood is a member of the distant royal family. There is a family tree. Lord Harewood was King George V's grandson. King George V's daughter, Princess Mary, the Princess Royal, married the 6th Earl of Harewood. Princess Mary died in 1965. Her husband, Henry Lascelles, the 6th Earl of Harewood, died in 1947. And their son, George Lascelles, was born in 1923. I don't know if he is alive now. But I bought this. It was $5 on Amazon Japan from some marketplace seller. And when I got it... So that means, let's figure out the relationship. So... granddaughter, he's a grandson of George V. Queen Elizabeth II is a granddaughter of George V. The author's mother and Queen Elizabeth's father were brother and sister. They're first cousins. So this is Queen Elizabeth II's first cousin. And when I got it, it's signed. I have a book signed by a very remote member of the British royal family. So I'll have to read it someday. There he is. And one coming up, I'm going to buddy read with Leah, who I read the Queen Mary biography with earlier this year. Queen Mary's mother was also a fabulous princess, the People's Princess. A portrait of Her Royal Highness Princess Mary, Duchess of Teck, and she was a piece of work. So I will have much more to say about this later this year. Can't you wait? Can you wait? Can you breathe? So that's my answer for this question. Doesn't that sound butch? Imagine me on the treadmill reading a biography of Queen Mary. 6 squats. That heavy weight can get you down. What's a book that you found depressing but you pushed through? So I love depressing books, and depressing books don't depress me. Really, books that have too much violence for me, I will bail on. But with a lot of tragedy, those are my favorite kind, really. But one that was particularly depressing and it was almost too much even for me, but I loved it, was The Story of a Brief Marriage by Anouk Arad-Pragasam. He is a Tamil Sri Lankan writer. This is his debut. It came out about 3 years ago, maybe. And it is set on the battlefield during the recent Civil War. Everybody's just dead or dying, and there's really no hope. He's on the Tamil side, and it's quite obvious that they will be completely routed and probably massacred by the advancing Sri Lankan army within days, if not hours. And a man he doesn't know asks him to marry his daughter so that she can die married, and he doesn't know why he wouldn't agree to that. And it's the story of their hours-long marriage, and it's heartbreaking. The prose, it's a little bit overwritten, but extremely gut-wrenching. Oh my God. 7. Bicep curls. It's easy to overdo these, I'll say. Name 2 authors you've read too much. I've been talking too much, too long about some of these prompts, so this will be very quick. I've read too much Charles Dickens. I've read way too much Zadie Smith. 8. Tricep dips. I've dipped into a few triceps in my day.
Begin each version of the dip by holding yourself in the air and keeping your feet together while contracting your abs and glutes to stabilize your body. To target all 3 heads of your triceps, you want to hold the dip bars so that your hands are close to your body and focus on keeping your head and chest up and your elbows close to your torso throughout the movement.
The triceps are too often ignored. Not by me! Name 3 authors you need to read more. Denton Welch. I read this, his first novel, I believe, from 1945, In Youth is Pleasure. It just blew me out of the water, and I've been dying to read something more by him. He didn't write a whole lot. He's got maybe 2 more novels, some essays, and his published journals. But I want to read absolutely everything, because this is a complete and utter delight. I will link to my review. Last week, I finished and absolutely loved Yoko Ogawa's The Housekeeper and the Professor, so I want to read more by her. I found this one really heartwarming, and apparently her other fiction isn't. It's quite dark, so I may not end up liking it as much as this, but it certainly made me curious to see what else she's got out there. And the last book I think I read last year was this novel from India, One Part Woman, by Purmal Murugan, and I really, really enjoyed it and want to read more by him as well. So those are my 3. That is the BookTube at the Gym tag, and I'm going to tag... Who am I going to tag here? This is not for men only, obviously. I mean, most of you ladies are far butcher than I am. So, Britta. Hello, Britta. Butch it up for us. I can't remember if you were already tagged, but you're tagged now. Hardcover Hearts. Karen Run Right Reads. Adam of Memento Mori. Here's one for you to do when you come back. Can't wait to see what you wear for the video. Supposedly fun. Looks like he goes to the gym 3 times a day. Anna Bailey Karras. Alan Morton. Jacqueline of 6 Minutes for Me. And Lindsay of Lindsay's Book Life.
So that was all for today. It's time for us to take a shower. Yeah. Oh. Whew. Guys want to join us?
Can't wait to see you all in your workout gear. Thanks for watching.